It's often hard to visualize the actual difference between $1 million and $1 billion, let alone 60 billion, which is around what Michael Bloomberg has. So I came across this graph online that I think does a pretty good job at showing you the difference. And basically it uses scale to really show you how much money Michael Bloomberg has compared to the other candidates in the race. So let's get to this. This was so I'm not sure who originally posted this. I'll get to the original link in a second, but in terms of Twitter, I'm not sure who posted this. But check this out. So as Bernie versus the Billionaires tweets out, candidates' wealth to scale. Use this for people who try the "but Bernie is a millionaire" card. So right here, this image doesn't even really capture it properly. I mean, I guess it does, but when I click on it, it becomes maybe even more evident. So, I mean, you can barely see this, but the top here is Pete Buttigieg. And then you got Amy Klobuchar at about 2 million. Then Bernie Sanders at about 2.5 million. Joe Biden at, I think that's 9 million. And then Elizabeth Warren at 12 million. Then this is Tom Steyer. So Tom Steyer is a billionaire, but only 1.6 billion. That's all. Michael Bloomberg, he's at 61. The text is so tiny. 61 billion. So look at this. This is the difference in wealth. So this is super important because I've heard this stupid argument. Oh, but Bernie Sanders is a millionaire. First of all, FDR, who instituted the New Deal, was also incredibly wealthy, but he fought for people. He was a class traitor, essentially. So wealth doesn't really matter as long as you're fighting for the right things and have an actual history dating back fighting for people. But putting that aside, just looking at wealth, I mean, it is ridiculous how much money Michael Bloomberg has, and understand why he's able to self-fund his campaign, because he's only spending like a tiny fraction, you know, a few of these squares on his campaign. But I have the original link here, so I'll link to these below the video as well, so you can check them out yourself. Share these links around with friends and family so they understand the difference in wealth here. Again, you got a little better idea. You can see it a little clearer anyways, who's on this list. And then let's go through Bloomberg again. All the way. Like, this is absurd. Also, I probably should have explained earlier. 1 square equals a million. So 1 square is $1 million. And that's what this is. Now, if you're having a hard time still understanding this, the difference here in between $1 million and 60 billion, let me share this here. So this is from betterexplained.com. So they write, for most of us, myself included, millions, billions, and trillions are big. It's not intuitively obvious that a trillion is actually a million squared. That is, a trillion makes 1 million look imperceptible. Check out these brain-bending figures. 1 second is 1 second. 1 million seconds is 12 days of vacation. So Bernie Sanders has about 24 days of wealth. Let's look at it that way. Bernie Sanders has about 24 days of wealth. A billion seconds is 30 years, a career, and a trillion seconds is 30,000 years. So just looking at a million versus a billion, 12 days, or in the case of Bernie Sanders, 24 days of wealth, $1 billion, 30 years. Translating this to actual, to scale, again, Bernie's wealth is about 12 days long. Bloomberg's wealth is 1,800 years long. So again, he doesn't have a billion, he has 60 billion, or about 61 billion. 1,800 years long is Bloomberg's wealth compared to Bernie Sanders at 24 days. So I just want people to understand, when Bloomberg was in the debate and said, oh, this socialist, what kind of socialist is a millionaire? Millionaire is nothing nowadays. And Bernie made his money off of selling books. Bloomberg made his money off of Wall Street. There is a huge difference to the difference should be obvious regardless of wealth. But in terms of wealth, there is a massive friggin' difference between these candidates and really between Bloomberg and everybody else in the race. So you can't let people like this who already control everything, who already have all the power, who already have all the money, you can't let people like this also be your president. Now, I guess people already have with Donald Trump, though there is some questions about how much money Trump actually has. But still, people that have been incredibly privileged in their lives and aren't able to recognize that privilege and are still fighting against universal health care, for example. Like, think of how ignorant, how disgusting it is for Michael Bloomberg, who again has 1,800 years long of wealth, or $60 billion. Someone like that not fighting for Medicare for all. Bloomberg doesn't think people should have healthcare guaranteed to them. And this is a man who's worth $60 billion. It's completely disgusting. So I have no real issue with people that are very wealthy but are fighting for people and want to actually see that wealth shared among the people, because they understand they didn't make that wealth themselves. It took the people that work for them to make that kind of wealth. But for the people like Bloomberg who just completely push that aside and think that, they're the reason for their own success, I don't know how anybody can support someone like Michael Bloomberg. I just don't get it. But again, I'll share these links below the video. This one is probably the easiest one to share around, or maybe even this one because it gives you the full picture. But absolutely ridiculous.